Good evening and welcome to another episode of the AFC East Bros podcast. Kyle and Gary here. We're talking all things in the AFC East. We do a live show every Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, if you want to give your input into the show, got something that's burning on your mind, you think that Kyle or Gary are idiots, you completely disagree with them, let us know. I was getting into a Twitter discussion today with a fellow podcaster, a Miami Dolphins fan, and in my eyes, I think he's a very smart fan, but I think that he's very excited about what the Dolphins have upcoming with Adam Gase and the potential that Ryan Tannehill has and some of the excitement that we thought last year. Right? We were thinking last year that, man, the Miami Dolphins have one of the most talented rosters in the league. When you look at some of those pieces that they added, J.J. in the 5th round, getting Jordan Cameron, Ndamukong Suh, the biggest splash in free agency, there was so much excitement and buzz with Miami that a decent amount of people were predicting them to be a playoff team. But now many pundits would say the Miami Dolphins have one of the worst talented rosters in the league. And I would still have to tend to disagree with the latter. I think they have a very not talented roster, but I think this Dolphins fan is kind of riding on that hot wave that we saw some Dolphins fans riding on last year. One thing about the preseason is everyone feels that they're good. Before the losses start piling up, you still have that feeling that we can be something. And the Dolphins fan was basically saying that the Dolphins were going to sweep the Jets, they were going to sweep the Patriots, and they were going to go 11-5. And he was on Ron Caniff's new podcast, The Finns Broadcast, and he's the co-host of the show. And those are some bold predictions, Kyle. Wow, you ain't kidding. And I just basically said, I think it's a bad look when you go out and say things like that. And he's like, well, do you want me to compliment the Patriots? Do you understand what a rivalry is? Of course I understand what a rivalry is, but if you want people to look at you as being any type of credible source, that people should go to you for knowledge, right? You cannot always favor your team. Say that you're going to go 5-1 in the division, right? They never swept the Patriots in the 15-year Brady-Belichick era, not once. Not even when they had to play Matt Castle twice in the same season, not once. And his logic was, you play Garoppolo, and you do that in New England, you can beat them there, and then you beat Miami. You beat the Patriots 3 straight years in Miami. So the circumstances aren't all that, crazy. But, come on. So anyway, this is the type of discussion that we welcome in this show. It's all about rivalries. I don't want to see the Patriots do well. You bet your butt that I was rooting crazy against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, but I got to call a spade a spade. The New England Patriots have been dominant. They've been the most dominant team in the NFL over the last 15 years. It's not even close. Right? So if we want to be credible, if we want to be as unbiased as possible, if we want people to value our opinions, I got to tell it like it is. And I just felt that he wasn't doing that. But anytime the lines are open, we welcome that type of discussion. Think that Kyle and Gary are constantly knocking your team if you're a Finns fan? Well, give us a call. The number is 712-451-0011. The PIN number is 321-848. Now that I got that off my mind, Gary, totally didn't even plan on going in that direction. But once you started talking, man, it just flows.
You vented right there. Do you care to give out, Kyle? Because I'm quite curious. I haven't been on Twitter all day today. Are you quite curious? I'm quite curious to know who is this exact person. Do you want to kind of give him some shine?
Yeah, I'll give him some shine. His Twitter handle is Dolphins Rule All. And then you can see his name that he has. So my name would be Kyle Smith, but it's at AFC East Bros. It's orange and aqua. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, when you have a Twitter handle, Dolphins Rule All, I mean, you got to be pretty optimistic, right?
And yeah, I get that. I get you want to win all the games, but come on. So.
Yeah. I mean, well, it'd be interesting to see if he comes on and wants to debate you. I'd like for you to get into some of these heated discussions because, Kyle, let's face it, on this show, I'm the one who's usually getting the brunt of the arguments from the Jets Nation.
I don't know if this is... I have this hunch, Gary. I don't know if it's true, but I have a feeling that sometimes some callers might be intimidated to call into our show. I've even had some Jets fans echo some sentiments that they were scared to call in and get into a debate with you.
Oh, why is that?
I don't know. I mean, you're a big guy, and I don't know if they... You know, everyone's a keyboard warrior, and... listen, people are stronger through the internet. They'll say things through the internet that they wouldn't else say otherwise, but I don't know if they're scared that, you know, you're going to come and see them, or because they're Jets fans and they're mostly on the East Coast, the tri-state area, maybe they'll think that you'll drive to their house and whoop them a new one.
Lord.
But I'm serious, though. People have said that to me.
Well, I'm going to say this on the air. I'm not wasting my darn time driving to someone's house over two football teams that we're talking about. It's great. I want people to challenge me. I want people to call in. I got better things to do than get into a fist fight over teams that two teams that we talk about here. And I'm glad people have that much fear of me, but I'm not trying to come here and do that, you know? So please, Jets fans, Patriots fans, Dolphins fans, I'm not looking to get into a fist fight over two teams. That's why, Kyle, remember a couple of years ago we went to a Jets-Bills game. I forget who we brought with us. I think it was the last time.
It was Brett, the gentleman, and it was your girlfriend, Ashley.
So, that was opening day. And a fan comes up to me. I'm wearing a Bills jersey, and he was drunk. He was heavily intoxicated, and he calls me a douchebag. You know, it's one thing, and I always show this respect when I'm at Ralph Wilson Stadium. I'll never take personal attacks. I will say Geno Smith's garbage, but I'll never insult someone personally. And that's where I think fans take it to the next level. So I could say a player's garbage or a coach's garbage or he's overrated, but for fans to go out and take personal attacks, like the gentleman, Kyle, real quick, we were at Ralph Wilson Stadium when the Bills played the Packers a couple years ago, and the Bills won that game. It was a great defensive performance. It was it was a crazy atmosphere. And a Bills fan gave Brett a wet willy, and I almost beat the shit out of this Bills fan. I yanked him by his shirt.
What?
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to tell you about.
Oh, my God.
The guy was so fearful. He was in shock that another Bills fan was attacking him. But that's what I'm trying to tell you, that fans take this on such a personal level that it shouldn't be that way. So my message there is to come on the show, talk to us, sensible. Don't get don't talk anything personal, and we won't have a problem, you know. But like I said, I don't discriminate. I'll whoop a Bills fan's ass if he gets out of line. So
yeah, I'm right with you, and you know, I certainly can hold my own, and I'm a pretty big guy, and I've gotten into my fair share of fights in my time, but it's been a very, very long time since I've gotten into any fights. But if I have to defend myself or my flesh and blood, then I'll do so. And, you know, I was kind of looking, and Gary, this guy that said that to you, he was one of those tough guys that he was tougher because he had a couple of his boys with him. He became a little bit more brazen. He was with maybe 3-4 other guys, and that's when he said that. It's not like he just, you know, said it to you and he was all by himself. You know, he felt like he was a little tougher. And I'm thinking, like, okay, well, I don't want to get into a fight, but I can't let my brother be outnumbered by a couple of these punks. So if I have to throw down, then I have to throw down. But, yeah, I mean, some of these people take it to the next level, man.
Yeah, well, and I'm never one to be intimidated by a numbers game. You know, like I said, you know, you might outnumber me, but you're gonna feel it if I come in contact with you. You know, so you better bring your army, pal, like Joe Pesci would say in a casino.
I got to put that clip in here.
Yeah. Anyway, now that we've discussed our heated encounters during games, Kyle, I think we need to get into some topics.
Yeah, you know, if you don't mind, I want to provide a little bit more context behind what I was saying. And it's AFC East relevant because, you know, they were making a strong attack against the Patriots, but I felt like it was a little bit unsupported. And here's why I say this. And, you know, they were citing the whole Deflategate thing, and they were saying that, hey, listen, the Patriots didn't start deflating footballs until 2007, and we all know what happened in 2007. The Patriots went 18-0 until they lost in the Super Bowl. And the thing that you notice then is that the Patriots, they started fumbling a lot less during that season. And that just happened to be the same season when Tom Brady and Peyton Manning both petitioned the league so that the offensive teams could then start handling the balls on their own. So they basically said, coincidence, hey, that the Patriots started deflating the footballs around this time. Now, that could very well be true. I'm not denying that. But I think the whole notion that deflating footballs led to all these wins is just ridiculous, because Mr. Delfino went on to then go and say that, well, hey, listen, you know, what have they done in recent years? I'm not all that impressed by them. And I said, so I started off on Twitter and I said, listen, 5 straight AFC championship appearances in the last 5 seasons. Never mind you, they made it to the Super Bowl twice, one of those a Super Bowl victory. And he tweeted back with 5 asterisks. And then he said right after that, I'll never know what they really would have been had they acted within the rules. PSI just tips the iceberg. So then I basically said, you really think that PSI led to all those wins? I mean, hashtag come on, man. And he said, like I said, deflated footballs is just the start. Been cutting corners for years. Be impressed if you like, but not me. To which I then said, okay, well, what else besides Spygate? But Spygate was over 10 years ago. And again, we're talking about success within the last 5 years, 5 straight AFC championship games. To which he didn't cite another single cheating incident after that. So yes, you can definitely say Spygate for sure, and you could definitely say if you want that Deflategate was not acting within the confines of the rules. However, many teams have handled the footballs in their own particular ways. Whether it was the Chargers, the Panthers, or even Aaron Rodgers likes the balls overinflated. So I don't buy that deflated footballs, and even last season, Gary, I mean, the Patriots were well en route to the Super Bowl, and if their offensive line could block, they would have been in that championship. And honestly, offensive line and their ability to block has nothing to do with a football. I'm sorry. You could talk about fumbling and whether or not a deflated ball is easier to hang on to, but that has nothing to do with offensive line play. If Brady gets some protection in the AFC championship game, there's no question the Patriots go on to the Super Bowl. And I definitely think they could have beat the Panthers. So he didn't cite another single cheating incident after that. And basically then, I don't know, kind of called me out, I guess, saying, do you know how rivalries work? If you're looking for me to say anything nice about him, you're barking up the wrong tree. Listen, and this is why I have the problem, is you don't have to go and praise the Patriots and bask in their glory and talk about how they're the greatest of all time, but give them credit where credit's due. When you go out and you say things like you're going to sweep them and you haven't been impressed by what they've done in recent years, and all of that it's because they're a bunch of cheaters, come on, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. If my New York Jets were deflating footballs over recent years, or his Miami Dolphins were deflating footballs over recent years, or your Buffalo Bills were doing that, I'm sorry, Gary, none of our teams would have been to 5 straight AFC title games.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's the thing, and we see this in society, Kyle. When you're successful, whether it's in your personal life, your professional, whatever, you have nice things. People are jealous and envious, and they always want to have a reason why, And whether they say, he's doing this, X, Y, and Z, I think he's doing something illegal, whatever. They always want to make a reason why. They always want to make an excuse why they're doing better than you, and that's what people do. And Kyle, this deflated balls thing has been tested in theory. There's not much of a difference it does. To say that the Patriots had all the success because they were deflating their balls is just nonsense. And Kyle, people like Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers, they've admitted to taking PSI out of the footballs. They said it's nonsense. They just weren't caught. But they've openly stated that they've done this in the past. So it's just crazy that people want to argue this fact. And, if you're a Dolphins fan, a Jets fan, or a Bills fan, yeah, you're bitter. You're bitter because the Patriots have been busting our tails since the Belichick and Brady era. So that's what he should really just come out and say. I'm just jealous and envious of them, and I'm just going to look to poo-poo them. But Kyle, we go on the show every year last year, and we always say the Patriots are going to win this game. The Patriots are going to win this game, and we're trying to be as unbiased as possible. Do we want them to win? Hell no. But the likelihood of the Patriots winning a game is very high, and let's call a spade. If you look at the Vegas odds, the Patriots are still the number one team, even with all the suspension of Tom Brady, So it's just ludicrous that this fan, and you know what I'm saying, I respect his opinion, I respect his passion for his team, but you and I, every week we get some fan on here, or, some passionate people, and we try to call them out and try to tell them, educate and say, you can't, how many times, Kyle, we go on a show and then a Jets fan thinks Calvin Pryor's the best thing since sliced bread, and we kind of try to bring them back to reality. Or, but there's plenty of examples of that, We try to be so unbiased sometimes, and sometimes we come out as biased, but really when it comes to the Patriots, the Jets, the Bills, and the Dolphins are all second fiddle. It's not even close.
Not even close. Couldn't have said it any better myself. All right, so let's move into our rankings. So this week we're going to talk about interior defensive line play. Now, this is an interesting discussion, and I go back to maybe about a year and a half ago, year and 2-3 months ago, and none other than Jim Schwartz, the last great defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, was on the Move the Sticks podcast with Daniel Jeremiah. And they were asking Jim Schwartz, what do you think is more valuable? Let's say you employ a 4-3 defense, to which Jim Schwartz does. Do you think it's a defensive end in such a scheme is more valuable, or an interior defender, such as a defensive tackle? And Jim Schwartz said that I prefer people that can play on the interior better. And his philosophy behind it was they're closer to the quarterback. Their right vision, his eyesight. If they start, forget if they can even get to him and have a clear path, but if they can begin to collapse the pocket, move him off his spot, that's going to disrupt quarterback play, even if they're not getting the sack numbers that an outside get. And Jim Schwartz is known for having guys such as Nick Fairley and most notably Ndamukong Suh when he was the head coach of the Detroit Lions. Ndamukong Suh is now obviously with the Miami Dolphins. So we're talking about interior defensive line play. And then again, this is a debated topic. You could very well make the argument that guys that rush from the exterior are more valuable. Look at the contract that Von Miller got. $70 million guaranteed, $115 million over the course of the contract. The highest defensive player contract ever. Before that, it was Ndamukong Suh, who is an interior guy. Fletcher Cox plays on the interior mostly. He just got a big old deal. Marcel Darius last season, he got a big old deal. So can we say that salaries, one way or the other, dictate which one's necessarily more valuable? No, we can't. It seems that teams kind of view these in different lights as to which is more valuable, interior rushers or rushers from the exterior. Anyway, Gary, what are your thoughts on the whole matter?
Yeah, and Kyle, back to what you were saying is that, there's a lot of guys on the outside that could get after the quarterback. You look at the Oakland Raiders, they got 3 of them. You got Aldon Smith, Bruce Irvin, and of course Khalil Mack. There's very few interior guys that could play the run and also play and also can pass rush very well. A few names come to mind like Fletcher Cox, Gerald McCoy, Marcel Darius, Muhammad Wilkerson, J.J. Watt, of course, Short from Carolina. There's very few guys, Malik Jackson, and those guys are premium because there's fewer guys. I just mentioned 3 on one team. There's only about a handful of guys in the league that could do both very well. And, of course, I forgot to mention Sue as well. So that's what I'm trying to get at, that those guys are few and far between. So when you get guy like that, you're very fortunate to have him. When you have edge rushers, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They got two outstanding ones in Tom Bahali and Justin Houston. The Denver Broncos, DeMarcus Ware, and of course Von Miller, and then you got a guy in Shane Ray waiting in the woodworks. So they're a little bit easier to find than the guy in the middle who could push the pocket and get after the quarterback. So that's why I think that this position is crucial. And Kyle, let's be clear before we get into this list. The Miami Dolphins are pretty unique in this situation because they're the only team that runs a traditional 4-3. So we want to group guys like Cameron Wake and Mario Williams on that edge category. We don't want to put them into the interior alignment. So this is a buyer's beware right now for all you Dolphins fans listening. This does not count as your whole D-line. This is just the interior guys that we're talking about. So with that being said, I think we should clarify that before we get any hasty Dolphins fans calling up and bashing this list. But either way, Kyle, like I said, I think that interior rusher who can also play the run is crucial and fewer and far between than the guy that can play on the edge.
If we really want to talk about value in terms of a guy that can push the pocket, that's stout against the run from the interior, just look at what Aaron Donald did last year, and he was by far and away, in terms of Pro Football Focus's metrics, he blew away J.J. Watt's seasons in terms of productions and pressures. And, oh my God, I was at the car wash the other day, Gary, and I used to watch NFL Network all the time when I used to live back at our parents' house. I currently don't have NFL Network, so usually whenever I'm at the car wash to turn it on. And he was only maybe number 14 in the top 100. I was like, oh, this is too low for this guy. He needs to be higher. And when they put on the tape of him, it was just scary, the way that he was blowing guys up, the speed that he was getting to the quarterback with. He was just such a freak. And, he had, what was it, 10, 11 sacks? But the amount of pressures that he had was just crazy.
Yeah, he's a scary individual, and as you know, that both of our teams play him this season, and it's going to be interesting to watch because Aaron Donald usually lines up over in between the center and right guard, and that's a weak point for both of our teams. Kyle, you're talking about Brian Winters and John Miller. It's not going to be a good day for either one of our teams if we can't get him under control. So I'm hoping that number 99 doesn't show up that day.
Please don't. Okay, so let's get into the rankings, Gareth. So tell us who ranks at number one.
Number one, and Kyle, you and I both agree that they're the clear-cut number one. And, last year, this list was a lot different. I mean, maybe not in terms of the two top teams, but they definitely flip-flop. And it's without a doubt the New York Jets. And, Kyle, I've been very vocal. I said Muhammad Wilkerson was probably the best player in the AFC East last year. You can make the argument for Rob Gronkowski and, of course, Tom Brady. But I think I would give the nod to Muhammad Wilkerson. I think he goes in that category. He's a special player like a Gerald McCoy, like a J.J. Watt, like a Sue, like a Darius, who could play both the run and the pass equally. Now, the crazy thing is that they have a young kid in the woodwork in Leonard Williams who might be just as talented as Mo Wilkerson. And you look at Kyle, they also got good depth. I might seem like I was bashing on him, but I'm not. I'm saying it's a drop-off from what they had last year. They picked up a Steve McClendon from Pittsburgh. Now, he's not nowhere near the size of Snacks Harrison. In fact, Harrison outweighs him by more than 40 pounds, but he gets the job done. He's a 30-year-old, he's a veteran, and he's a good nose tackle. He's, let's make no bones about it. Snacks is the premier in the league, but he's not bad at it. He's actually a really good player. Then you got another good depth. I'm just going to get into the depth before I talk about the stars, Kyle. You got Jarvis Jenkins. Now, Jarvis Jenkins, second-round pick, probably a little bit overdrafted by the Washington Redskins. I liked him coming out of Clemson. I thought he could get after the quarterback from that and be a good gap penetrator. He's been riddled with injuries, and Kyle, he's not that good at the run. In fact, he gets blown off the ball quite often. I looked at the tape when he played for Chicago because he was a free agent. I was thinking, hey, maybe the Bills might scoop him up. Not a good run player, but, I do like him as a little on third down situations. If he could probably get after the quarterback, get out McClendon. And now let's go to the big three, and this is where the list stands out because you got the young rookie Leonard Williams, who had an outstanding rookie season. Really showed great potential. In fact, a lot of Jets fans, Kyle, and you can probably agree to this, were making the case. Well, if we let Muhammad Wilkerson go, this kid's waiting in the woodwork, he might be just as talented. And it was a lot of food for thought. I'm sure that, Mike McCann was definitely thinking that. I wasn't in that train of thought. I think you can't replace a player like Mo Wilkerson, even with a young kid that might be very talented. And, like I said, I think that it's an absolute blessing that the Jets have him. And they were fortunate enough to get him at the position they did. He kind of fell into the Jets' lap. Probably the best defender in last year's draft. Now, let's move on to Sheldon Richardson. Kyle, not so good report on Sheldon Richardson. Last year had a huge drop-off from productivity and also his play. If you watch his tape, you're very unenthused if you're a Jets fan. Jets fans, they could credit that to his off-field antics during the beginning of the season. We mentioned that he got pulled over by the cops at the beginning of last year with a loaded weapon and a minor in the car. Maybe his frame of mind wasn't correct, coming into that season. You can also talk about his weight gain. I mean, there was reports that he was upwards of 320 pounds. Here's a guy, when he played at the University of Missouri, he weighed in at 289, 291. He showed up at the combine at 294. He plays at a lighter weight so he can be more explosive. Sheldon Richardson did not look explosive. He didn't look motivated last year. And I do believe that's another reason why the Jets prompted to give Mo Wilkerson the big deal, because they probably have a little bit more faith in Mo Wilkerson as opposed to Sheldon Richardson. And, of course, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on him and let you get most of the shine, Kyle, is that Mo Wilkerson, I think he is the centerpiece of that whole defense. There's not a lot of D linemen that could run down Tyrod Taylor, who's probably the fastest quarterback in the league. Mo Wilkerson did that last year. And, to me, he is a watered-down version of J.J. Watt. And I don't say that as an insult. I just say that he does everything very well. He might not be the best passer. I mean, let's face it, J.J. Watt, 20 sacks a year, but you'd be happy to get 11, 12 with Muhammad Wilkerson. And also Mo Wilkerson, he reads screens real well. He bats balls with those long arms at the defensive line position. Really, I mean, he's just a jack of all trades. Reminds me a lot of J.J. Watt in his play, but just not as quite the level as J.J. Watt is.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not even that much to say after you said it pretty much all, but I think one of the interesting things about the Jets, and we're specifically talking about interior defensive linemen, but all these guys that you've named is all these guys played significant reps on the interior. 3 technique, some have even played some 0 technique at certain times, 1 technique. These guys play on the interior, and they can rush from the interior. And no doubt, I'm with you. I wanted Muhammad Wilkerson over Sheldon Richardson, especially when you factor in the whole notion of whether or not, Sheldon Richardson can get back into, motivated playing weight. It was just absolutely unacceptable. You figure after being suspended for 4 games and, trying to get a big-time contract, especially from the team that you're on, you might not be hitting free agency for a couple of years if they exercise your team option and stuff. You better go out and ball now because they got these other defensive linemen around. You might lose playing reps, and that's going to hurt your money. Sheldon Richardson had all the reasons in the world to be motivated after that 4-game suspension. The reality is he came in and he was bigger, he was out of shape. And not only that, too, but, you figured once the coaching staff moved into play stand-up outside rush linebacker, he's thinking, okay, I'm more out in space now. Maybe I should drop a couple pounds, right? I know I'm athletic and stuff, but, I'm not used to doing this on a regular basis. It would have been advantageous for him to drop weight. Instead, he inflated, he ballooned up, and the production wasn't there. So definitely Muhammad Wilkerson would be my number 1. But if you want to talk about interior pressure, Sheldon Richardson, especially in the 2014 season, that's where he kind of made his money. He was really good rushing from the interior, specifically the 3 technique. Muhammad Wilkerson,
Question.
yes.
Now, Kyle, real quick before we move on to Mo Wilkerson, do you think that maybe Todd Bowles' scheme is not quite the fit for Sheldon Richardson? I mean, like you said, they had him out in space. They used him more of like a rush linebacker. Kind of reminds me of what Rex Ryan tried to do with Quentin Coples a couple of years ago. He just didn't look like he fit there. And even at the end spot, I remember numerous times I watched Sheldon Richardson go against Cordy Glenn, and he wasn't getting any push. He was just getting stonewalled every time, and it just seemed like, man, I remember this guy being such a good gap penetrator. Why isn't Todd Bowles using him there?
Even if he gets down to his combine weight of 294, he is not going to thrive in that role of being a stand-up rush linebacker. He just won't. That's just not his game. It's never been his game. He doesn't have the body frame nor the athleticism to do that on a consistent basis. So if Todd Bowles plans on employing him there, which all indications seem that he will not do that again this year, then yes, his scheme doesn't fit him good. But I think it's a matter of, listen, they had Leonard Williams, the rookie, who did well over the first 4 games last year, in Sheldon Richardson's absence, playing his role, and Muhammad Wilkerson. And you also had Snacks, who's playing, he's playing on the first 2 downs. It was just a very, very crowded defensive line. And now that Snacks exits, clearly Sheldon Richardson is more valuable than those other guys that they signed, McClendon and Jenkins. So I think that it would be absolutely foolish for Bowles to employ Richardson in the same exact way that he did last year. And I don't believe that he will play him there again. And everything that I hear from Bowles, he doesn't plan on doing that again. But we can only hope. Maybe in certain schemes, maybe like on a certain rare play, maybe one time a game he'll do it. Who knows? But again, this is all schematics and coaches trying to get an advantage to confuse the opponent. It's not like he was straight up horrible out there. He wasn't, but he was really good. He was really good the year before.
He just looked lost, and it seemed like Bowles was not playing him right. But then again, I don't think Bowles really trusted him much, especially him coming in the season, like I said, with the arrest, and then coming in playing much over his weight. I mean, Christ, Kyle, he was close to nose tackle weight. It just didn't seem like he was an effective player last year. But, the talent, the sky has a limit for Sheldon Richardson. No one's doubting his talent. It's just that, like I used to hear a lot of sports writers say, it's $1 million body, 2 cent mind. I mean, Sheldon Richardson might be that player,
Hopefully he can be a good boy from here on out. I mean, another thing that really annoyed me as a Jets fan is the whole 143-mile-per-hour drag racing with a loaded gun and a youth in the car and marijuana in the car, all that crap, that came right after he just got the 4-game suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy. And to get a 4-game suspension for substance abuse, you have to be a repeat offender. So he did that twice, and it came literally right after he got the 4-game suspension. It's like, dude, what are you doing? It just seemed to snowball and get bigger and bigger. So regardless, though, when he was employed in his best type of role, we knew that he was a 3 technique coming out. And when Rex Ryan, in the 2014 season, Rex's last season with the Jets, employed him there for the vast majority of his reps, he thrived there. He was very good. And Leonard Williams, again, this guy, you can move him all up and down the line as well. Very good as well. So we had to give it to the Jets, clear cut. It wasn't even close. There was a significant gap between the Jets and the rest of the 3 AFC East teams in terms of the interior defensive linemen. And let's go bring on this next guy before we get into our second team because, hey, listen, when you're Hollywood and when you're well sought after and people want you on, you got to give the people what they want. And no, this is not Ben Blessington. This is actually Mr. Gary Smith Sr.
Oh, man.
How's it going?
Kyle, your replacement.
How you doing, guys?
How's it going?
Hey, nice
Dad.
introduction. Nice introduction. Thanks.
Hey, Dad, Kyle and I were discussing in private, I was thinking maybe next year, man, we might have to put you in under a contract instead of Kyle, man. That one day you filled in.
Well, when I'm retired in a few more years, maybe we could do a threesome,
Oh, well, let's not use that word, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I know it sounds funny, but
Well, how about this?
I enjoyed doing it. I really did.
Any dumber.
Hey, Dad, real quick. Kyle is still bitter about the volleyball game, and he wants to set up a rematch. So
I have no problem with that.
Right.
I got no problem with that.
All right.
You got a big enough backyard. Buy a net, and we'll get about 8 guys together, 4 on each team. We'll see.
No, I already went to Modell's and got one. So
okay, yeah, all right. I'm all for it.
All right, good.
And you know what, too? I had all the ladies on. I almost beat you guys, and I had all the ladies on my team except for Craig. I had one other guy on my team, and the rest were all ladies, and I still beat you too.
I don't even hear that. You had a Division I soccer player that's 6 feet tall. So don't play the lady card there. No one else was a Division I athlete on that volleyball field or court or whatever it's called.
Well, she was a hell of a player that day, I'll admit. She was. She's 6'1", that helps,
Well, yeah. Well, she's grown by the conversation. She'll be 6'4" by the time this is all over with. Anyway, yeah, and also you had our mom, who had probably one of the angriest swings or serves I've ever seen.
I know. I know.
She was beating that ball like it stole something. So
I know. She must think she's at the gym when she's playing volleyball.
Yeah, right. Anyway, Dad, we got to know what's on your mind today. What do you have to talk about?
Well, I like the talk you had about the defensive line. You know what? If I'm a Jet fan, I wouldn't be concerned about the defensive line, nor the top 7, the linebackers and the defensive line. I think we're going to be good for the Jets. I like Harris. I like them 2 young kids that they drafted as linebacker. Them 2 young kids will put some speed into the team, which they need. If I'm a Jet fan, I'm not concerned about the front 7 as far as the defense.
I mean, and Kyle, and Dad, just by our ratings, the Jets fans shouldn't be concerned because I believe in our ratings, the Jets have the number 1 D-line and the 2nd highest rating linebacker group as far as inside guys.
Yeah.
Where the Jets fall and drop, and Kyle, I think you'll agree, is in the secondary and in the edge rushers. That's their Achilles heel, that they really don't have a premier pass rusher from that edge spot. And besides Darrelle Revis, they don't have another corner that could really lock down a wide receiver. So that's their major concerns. That's what they lack on the defense. But other than that, I think Kyle and I both agree on you as far as their front 7, as far as the inside linebackers and the D-line goes.
Yeah, Harris is Harris. He's good. He's a year older though, but he's very consistent. Like I said before, these 2 young linebackers they drafted, especially the guy of Ohio State, which I'm a little, biased, I mean, he's a hell of a player, and he's a player that can run from east to west and west to east. He has a lot of lateral movement, and he has speed, and that's what the Jets needed, and that's what they're going to get out of the kid.
Hey, Dad, I want you to hang on for a second because we're going to go on and we are going to bring on another guest.
Oh, don't tell me that Patriots fan.
Is it happening, Kyle? Is it really happening right now?
Are you loyal to your team? 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 This team has taken me through my cancer and all my friggin' eye surgeries.
Wow.
And that's the bottom line. They keep me alive every day. And you know my personal story, Bob. So this story means diddly squat. Stay loyal to the Patriots. And that's all I got to say, Bob. I love you. I'm going to send you a personal message. And hopefully I'll see you in Phoenix.
All right. None other than Mr. Nick Baby Love himself.
Hey, gentlemen. Good evening. How you doing, Dad?
How you doing? Are you my age? Are you up there?
Oh yeah, I'm 60 and change.
Okay, because I go back to Hank Stram. I'm a Chief fan. I go back to Hank Stram.
Oh, are you kidding me? Matriculating the ball down the field. Wasn't he the greatest?
You know what? Let me tell you something.
Let me just say one thing so I can be respectful. Your first name again?
I'm jealous because the Patriots had a good run. The Patriots had a good run.
Dad, hey, Dad. He asked what your name is.
I'm Gary Sr.
Okay, listen. I just want to tell you, I want to shut up and listen to you, but you got two great sons. And I got a lot of juice, and I'm behind them all the way. They're very good friends of mine, and I judge a man by how he raises his kids. And you got two wonderful sons. That's all I can tell you. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, like you had a good run. The Patriots had a good run. Brady, Hall of Famer, and Belichick is probably one of the best X and O's coaches that ever lived. You know, but I think their run is coming to an end pretty soon. I think between Brady getting up in age and other things that has to do with that team, I think this might be you're only 1 or 2 years left, and then you're going to go through a rebuilding process again.
Well, like I said, it's all subjective. You never know. Like I said, I mean, you have a lot to say. You were just talking about some game the family was playing, and I'm a real Italian. I'm all about the family and all that stuff. And you were on the other week there, and I was telling both Gary and Kyle, because Kyle stays in touch with me pretty consistently, and he goes on some of the other shows that I've introduced him to, especially PFW, and you were talking about the all-time Jets team and whatnot, and one of the things, I've been lucky enough, Gary Sr., to see Joe Namath probably about 8 times. I remember seeing him at Harvard Stadium, and I try to explain to your sons, he's the greatest Jet ever, because back then they punched and grabbed and twisted your knee, and he had the 2 greatest receivers, George Sauer Jr. and Don Maynard, and was Pete Abrams his tight end?
Pete Lamons was the tight end during the Super Bowl, but
Lamons, right? Pete Lamons.
He only lasted about 1 or 2 years after the Super Bowl.
And who was the guy on defense that was like a maniac intercepting the ball? I think he may have turned the game around when he intercepted Johnny Unitas there. I keep forgetting his name. Emerson Boozer?
No, Boozer was the halfback.
Right.
I think the guy's name was Johnny Sample.
You're right. Oh, man, you are old school like me. Oh, Johnny Sample was the man.
Yep.
I mean, that's where you're right about, the Patriots, if they don't have leadership, they're going to go south. Because I live in Miami now. I'm originally from Worcester, Mass., right outside the Boston area, and they still, I live in Miami now, they still cry about Marino. I used to hang out with Jim Kelly, so they still cry about him. And, when we don't have Brady, we don't have anything. So, the point I was making was, somebody else is due for a run anyway, I mean? It's just Johnny Sample. Oh, my, you get me? I wish some of these people could understand the Jets had some great teams back in the day.
You know what? I think they had a better team. I don't know if you remember the Mud Bowl against the Dolphins.
Absolutely.
It was the AFC Championship between the Jets and Miami, and they were playing at Miami. And it rained the night before, and John Shula did not put the tarp on the field. And the Jets back then were a speed team. You had Wesley Walker. You had all these fast guys on the team, and they couldn't run in the mud the next day, and because Shula didn't cover the field, he didn't put the tarp down, and the Jets' speed was totally taken out of that game. If you remember that game?
No, I remember it loud and clear, just like, like you said, look I respect Schuler, and I respect Marino, but that's part of the hypocrisy of this back and forth, because Schuler, to this day, is still ranting and raving about the snowplow when we won 3-0 in Foxborough. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, Gary, it just never stops. This is why I think your son's created, as I told everybody in Boston and the other areas I know, they created a little niche here with the AFC East, and this is a historical division because you got, really the real old AFL teams. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, when you think about it, really, they're all AFL teams. The Dolphins, the Jets, the Buffalo Bills, the Patriots.
I agree with you. I mean, like I said, I just thought of, like I said, I was telling them, I just thought, I'm so fortunate to have seen Joe Namath. I'll just never forget the game, Gary, in Harvard Stadium. He went on an 8.5-minute drive against a real good Patriots team, and just boom, bang to Pete Lammers, bang to George Sauer, bang to Don Maynard, and, the line was pretty respectable. Yet, I feel bad if they would have had all the technical stuff, health-wise that we got now. Right. He, would have
Joe Namath played with bad knees almost his whole career.
I argued with Kyle. I said he had bone. He played with bone. He had nothing.
He had no cartilage in his knees. He had no cartilage left in his knees, and he still played.
Are you guys hearing all this?
Yeah, we're actually.
Don't ever let me hear you badmouth Joe Namath. It's only Broadway Joe. When you want to talk about, forget it. Don't even get me started about. He used to have to take ticket stubs when he went out for all the women to get into the clubs. Forget it. He was like, it's like once in a lifetime. He was.
Gary Jr., I never thought I'd hear the day. Gary Jr., I never thought I'd hear the day when a Patriots fan was scolding me for not having enough respect for Jets players.
Ain't that something, Kyle? Ain't that something?
you know what Jet player I can't stand now? He played during the early millennium. I'm going to give you one name, Mo Lewis.
What?
Yeah,
you know why?
I don't like Mo Lewis either.
Well, I know why.
You know why I hate Mo Lewis? What was the single thing he did that? Do you guys remember what he did?
Oh, of course. Just go ahead and tell the story.
Here we go.
He knocked out Bledsoe. he rang Bledsoe's bell. They were playing the Patriots, and here comes Tom Brady, and the rest is history. Shame on Mo Lewis.
Well, I mean, not only that, but when I think of stuff like when I was actually at the game when Darryl Stingley got hit by Jack Tatum, and this is what I try to explain, Gary Sr., to all the new school people or people that are younger than us, that it used to be brutal back there with the stick and with the hitting. I don't even want to say what they did in the huddle or when you're on the ground tackling somebody. They were grabbing you everywhere.
Oh, Jack Tatum was one of the baddest safeties around. Do you remember George Atkinson? He was the other safety.
Oh my God, he's another Raider. They were all crazy out there. Talk about PEDs.
They made bets between the two of them, Jack Tatum and George Atkinson, how many guys they could knock out a game during the season.
Right.
They actually had monetary bets on how many guys they can knock out of the game.
And what about the other nutcases like Matuzak or Lyle Alzado?
Yeah.
Oh my! I mean,
those are two steroid guys. Them two guys. That's why they're not alive right now.
Well, exactly. They invented the PED thing. I wanted to ask you, what about guys like that I respect, like Joe Klecko or even Mark Gastineau? What did you think of them?
Oh, the Sack Exchange. Yes, that was a great.
Who else was in the Sack Exchange?
Well, you had Marty Lyons. Right,
great guy.
And Abdul, what the heck was his name? He had a
Salam.
He was there. Abdul Salam.
There was another guy too that was big.
Abdul Salam and Gastineau. Abdul Salam and Marty Lyons and Joe Klecko and Gastineau were the ends.
Right. I was trying to think of one other guy.
And then you had Greg Buttle was one of the linebackers.
Yeah,
Remember Greg Buttle?
There you go.
He was, you know what? He was so underrated. And to me, he never got his due. He had some good years with the Jets, Greg Buttle.
No, he was underrated too.
Him and Lance Mel. Lance Mel was the middle linebacker, and Greg Buttle was the weak side linebacker.
No, they were. You know, I mean, it's just a shame that they made mistakes along the way. Not to bring it up, but boy, that coach there, that
Walt Michaels.
Walt Michaels, though. I mean, I'd rather talk about the good coaches, but didn't.
Well, you know what happened to Walt Michaels? That Mud Bowl game, the Mud Bowl game we were talking about against Miami, they lost that game. And on the way back on a plane on the way back to New York, Walt Michaels got drunk on the plane, and he was bad mouthing Sonny Warblin and all the other top people on the Jets, and that's why they fired him after that. He got all boozed up after that game on the plane, and supposedly the owner of the team and everybody else he was bad mouthing on the plane back to New York, and that's why they let him go.
And without mentioning like Rich Kotite, some of the stiff coaches, but
oh God, what did he win? 1 game that year? 2 games that year?
God, don't even get me started, because we had our share. We had our share of guys for the Patriots. I mean, I'll never forget the 2-14 years.
Oh,
and
God.
I'd have to listen to all these Dolphin fans, because I moved down here from Boston area in '77. Who was the coach of the Super Bowl in 1970?
Wade Eubank.
Wade Eubank. And the owner who was the owner then?
Wasn't it? Was it Sonny Wabe? Was it Sonny Wablin?
Yeah, I think so. But then, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but Wade Eubank was just about...
And Leon Hess was. I'm sorry, Leon Hess.
Oh, my gosh.
He owned Hess.
Him.
He owned Hess Gas. Hess Refinery, Hess Gas.
Yeah, I mean, another one. Oh, my God. Another accident waiting to happen. They won despite him. I mean, so... Yeah, there's probably a few other players that I really, really liked. So,
So what'd you think of my all-time Jet team?
I loved it, except you didn't put, Pete Lamage you didn't have on there, and obviously George Sauer Jr. I think is the best receiver that ever played for the Jets. I mean, when I seen it live. So, in other words, they used to run a route, and Namath would be getting bitten and punched, and it'd still throw a dart, and boom, the ball would be right there. They were very, very strict with their patterns, and him and Don Main. Obviously, Don Main is a Hall of Famer 10 times over. But I love George Sauer Jr. It was just quite a tandem. And back then, Gary and Kyle, they all played hurt. It's not like today where, guy gets a cold and, I don't know if I can suit up.
Hey, I'm going to give you my favorite Patriot of all time. I'm not a Patriot fan.
Oh, hold on. Hey, Nick, I just want to point out why Gary Sr. didn't think that Pete Lamage should have been the greatest Jets tight end. He said that he was a blocking tight end. He might have caught in maybe 10 passes all season.
Yeah, 10, 15 passes all. He was a blocking tight end.
No,
I don't know if you remember Jerome Barkham and Mickey Schuler and.
Oh, Mickey Schuler was tremendous.
I put him number 1 on my all-time list. Mickey Schuler.
Yeah, I just did that. Pete Lamage has a ring. You know what I mean? That ring that everybody wants. You can talk all the smack in that 3 or 4 year run. Like I said, if Namath didn't have the bad knees, I penciled them in for a second Super Bowl, but that's how hard it is to win out here. It's difficult. I'm already terrified. I went off today. I'm obviously not a Roger Goodell guy, and it's a family show, so I already went off enough on the Patriots show today. And I just think, you know, it's you know, I can't stand Roger Goodell. Like I said, I better just keep my mouth shut because I'll go crazy. But
you know what, Goodell is good for the league as far as money. He's a money man. But that's where it ends. I don't think he's good for the game, but he's good for the league because of money.
Hey,
well, and you guys got a chance to turn your season around because, you know, everybody, all these Patriots fans, they live in a fantasy world. If we go 2-2, we'll have a spectacular year. I'm figuring we're going to lose at Arizona and then, you know, beat Miami and ease by Buffalo, but we may lose to the Jets at home. If did the kid sign yet?
Fitzpatrick?
Fitzpatrick? No.
Yeah.
No.
So what are they going to hell to do? Gary C., did they tell you that, you know, Geno Smith's family lives about 4 or 5 miles from me down the street here in Hollywood, Florida?
Really? Wow.
Yeah, no, I've watched him since high school. Actually, his high school team was the Miramar Patriots.
Uh-huh.
And then of course, all those people I can't stand. I heard you saying something about Ohio State, and I almost hung the phone up, but whatever. I'm not an Ohio State guy, but you know, all these teams come in and steal our players in Florida. And Gene, of course, went to West Virginia, but you know, I don't know.
It's a quality education over there at West Virginia.
No, I think everywhere is a quality. Michigan's a great school. Ohio State's a great school, but that doesn't mean I got to like the hype of the Big Ten. You know what I mean? You know,
I'm just kidding.
You know what? Let me tell you something. The Ohio State coach, besides being a great coach, he's the best He's the best recruiter in the country.
Yeah, stealing all the players from Florida, of course.
That's why he's the best coach and best college coach in the nation, because he knows how to coach football and he knows how to recruit football.
No, I'm not going to argue with you, Gary. I'm not going to argue with you there. Urban Meyer is, look, he did great at Florida. You know, I'm glad
University
he's
of Utah, he was good.
Yes, he was great. I'm glad he's healthy, if anything, because we were down here. It's pretty scary, you know, when he took that time off. Because I'm obviously a health person. As you heard that, if you listen to the skit they played, you know, I'm a cancer survivor, and on top of that, I'm legally blind. So I try to come on the show as often as possible. I'm actually playing hurt today, but hey, you know, this is how things work. I got lucky, and you guys, your dad was on, and you know, man, we could go on all day. I want to ask him, in all truthfulness, you know, what do you think the Jets' record's going to be, Dad?
Okay, when I was on the show a couple weeks ago, I said without Fitzpatrick, with Geno Smith, they'll be 8-8. If they sign Fitzpatrick, that might make the difference of 1 or 2 games. They could be a 10-6 team with Fitzpatrick. But
no way.
without him, the best I see them being, especially with Geno Smith, is 8-8.
To which I say, no way. All right, but anyway, we got to move on. We got some other topics, some other callers on the line. We want to thank you guys for taking us way back.
Real quick, Nick and Dad, I tell you what, I don't know if I could point this out, but I think we have another show, or you guys have a future as a show together. I don't know if you see that too, but you know.
Well, I want to end on this. I want to send my love out to your dad, because you only got one parent. I mean, one mom and dad, and mine ain't around. So I hope Dad's getting, and I love you every day from you two, or you're never going to hear from it from me. So yeah. I love you, Dad. From Nick, reaching out in Miami via Boston. Was an honor being on the show with you.
Nick,
thanks
a lot.
So much, Nick.
Thanks a lot, Nick. I hope to hear from you again. It was a pleasure talking to you. And you are Italian too?
I'm a paisan all the way.
Yeah, I don't know if my boys ever mentioned their mother's Italian.
They did, of course. They gave me the whole skinny. So
okay, yeah.
So I'm sure she's got the sauce and the meatballs and the braciole and all the stuff going really good on a Sunday. So, but never mind the lasagna. I could go on all day. And the crispy Italian bread. You guys got me hungry.
Well,
and a little bit of Chianti too.
Hey, listen, Nick. Thank God we do have our mother because our dad can't cook worth a damn. So.
Hey, Nick. Before you go, I want to give you one name. My favorite Patriot of all time. Not that I'm a Patriot fan. Is Jim Earthquake Hunt.
Come on.
You remember him?
Come on. That's
Do you remember?
My dad, everybody knows my dad was tight with Babe Parilli, Geno Cappelletti, Jim Hunt, Jim Nance, Houston Antwine, all the old Boston Patriots. When they started,
you remember Earthquake Hunt, though?
Of course. He played in the 60s.
Yep.
He was an animal. I mean, he did. I mean, oh my God! I mean, like I said, my family is from up there, so I mean, I've never missed a game in my life. So I go back. I was 7 years. What was it? 6, 7. The first game when Billy Sullivan bought the team for $25,000, 1960. Wow. That's when the Jets were started as the Titans or whatever. No, I go way back with all that. So I mean, it's wow! I can't even believe he named Jim Hunt, Earthquake Hunt, unbelievable.
Yep. Ain't that something? I remember all them old Patriots.
No, it's something special. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But we'll talk soon. I'll go on with you again. It's all good.
All right.
Okay. Nice talking to you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick, and Gary Sr., Dad. We love you. All right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
All right. I'm going to bed now because I got to be up at 2:00 in the morning. Take care, guys.
All right.
Wow, what an interesting exchange that was.
You know what, Kyle? He says that, but him and Nick, if we would have let them carry on with the show, they would have been up all night talking about the good old days.
The good old days. Right? Amazing. I want to get back to our list soon, but before we do that, because, shoot, we could go on for a whole bunch of time, let's bring on Mr. Kyle Fahey. And I don't got his entrance music yet, but I will get it very soon.
It has to be.
We will. We're not going to disclose it to him. We're gonna play it for him live. He's not going to know what it is beforehand. But anyway, Mr. Fahey, how you doing?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
By the way, as you probably heard, that was Nick Baby Love on the line, and as far as Nick Baby Love showed you guys a whole bunch of love, so you should probably return the favor.
Okay. I mean, I don't really know him well, so I don't know how to compliment him. He seems like a nice guy. I don't know if he has a podcast, but
no, he doesn't have a podcast, but
there's one in the woodworks between him and my dad, I think.
All right.
Hey Nick, I heard something a couple weeks from Kyle. You're running for what are you running for? I heard you're in some type of election.
No, that is from last year. Ben told me about that.
Hashtag vote Fahey.
Yeah, I lost that.
Well, you know what? We need to do an Al Gore. We need to have a recount,
Yeah.
Of the votes.
Hey, I am in Florida, so that
is true.
Oh man. But anyway, what's on your mind, Mr. Fahey? So anyway, Gary and I, we are ranking the interior defensive linemen right now, and we had by far and away number 1 was the New York Jets. And we haven't gotten into 2, 3, and 4 yet, but I'm assuming that you would agree with that. But anyway, what else is on your mind? It's right on the eve of training camp. Players are going to report tomorrow for the New York Jets. Gary, do the Bills report tomorrow as well? Or do they report on the 29th? Your birthday?
Rookies report the 28th, and then veterans the 29th, my birthday. So. Okay.
So anyway, Kyle, there's a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking all Jets on Thursday evening, and I'm going to co-host your show at the Jet Take Thursday evening. That should be a lot of fun. I'm not going to take it. If I disagree with you, we're going to go into it. I assure you that. I'm going to make sure that I call you out When you called Justin Burris athletically similar to Patrick Peterson, come on, that was crazy. You better not say anything like that.
They are literally the same height, basically have the same arm length. It's like half a centimeter apart.
Hey, you know what? Hey, listen, Kyle. I'm the same height and weight as Patrick Peterson. Should I play corner in the NFL?
You're 6'2".
I'm 6'1".
6'1". That's.
I'm 6'1", 215.
You know what? I know, Kyle, that's not the craziest.
That's what I'm saying. Their 40's not even close. Burris is like almost a 4'6" guy, and Peterson's a 4'3" guy. I mean, that is a big difference when we're talking cornerbacks that need catch-up speed. If a receiver gets them off the line, the corner's got to have that recover speed.
Peterson's a 4.34 40-time guy. No, but you know what, Kyle? That's not the most. Kyle, we're not trying to pick on you, by the way. We actually enjoy when you call, and I actually enjoy your show thoroughly. But Kyle Fahey, a couple weeks ago when I was on the show, he made the comparison of Jordan Jenkins to Tom Bahali.
Oh man!
My God! I mean, if the Jets have if they have Patrick Peterson and Tom Bahali on their roster, the AFC East is in big trouble, Kyle. You might go undefeated this year with those two guys on top of whatever.
And Geno's Tom Brady, guaranteed.
Oh, there we go. We heard it. We heard it here first.
Yeah, and the problem with when you mention Tom Bahali as the comparison to Jordan Jenkins, Mr. Fahey, is I think Ben asked you, and why would you say that? And you're like, I have no reasoning.
Yeah.
You gotta give a reason, man.
It was literally just a name that popped into my head. There was nothing behind it.
Well, it's okay. We can all make mistakes from time to time.
That's all right. But Kyle, we got to know what brings you here. Do you have something to ask us, or something that you want to comment on, or?
No, I just like talking football, and you guys offer a wide variety of it.
We really like having you on here. I mean, honestly, you and Ben are some of our favorite callers, and Kyle, really not. I mean this with the bottom of my heart. I really enjoy listening to your show. I actually listen to it when I'm working out, and I always get a good laugh. The bantering between you and Ben is just hilarious.
Yeah, that's kind of our thing. Kyle, you're going to have to live up to that. I mean, I usually play the bad guy, but I get to be the good guy this week. I don't know if Ben told you that.
I don't see why you get to be the good guy. I'm the guy that's coming in. I have no problems with anyone. Nobody knows me that well. I get to just sit back and, not play the soundboard, and I get to just comment. You got to run the whole thing, and if anything, I think I'm the good guy.
No, see, we want them to miss Ben at the end of the show. That's what he told me. He goes, make them miss me. He doesn't want to get replaced.
Well, I don't know.
I'm not going to be the guy to replace Ben.
Yeah.
Ben's listening to this over in Rome right now. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning for them. Or, no, 3 o'clock.
He's got a tight schedule. I don't know if he could fit small guys like us into his busy schedule. Is he still in Rome? I mean, he told me he's going to Rome, he's going to Paris, he's going to London, he's going everywhere.
Yeah, I have his official agenda on my Snapchat, but that's for later. Let's get into some football. Enough with the football talk.
Okay, please do.
All right. Well, I see, Kyle, since he's on right now, you're the resident Jets fan, Kyle Fahey. I got to ask you some questions on your team. That way, and it's not me picking on your team or anything. I just got to know, what are your train of thoughts? Fitzpatrick's not signed yet. The Jets reporting to camp this week. I mean, what's the mindset of you as being a Jets fan? Are you not worried? Are you worried? Are you concerned?
I said it on Twitter earlier this week. I'm scared as hell, but I have faith. I'm giving Fitzpatrick until Thursday morning, when everybody's out there. I don't know if they'll be on the field, but they'll be there in the facility. That's his deadline for me. I've basically given up on Fitzpatrick.
Wow.
If he doesn't show up by then, I'm sorry. We got to move in with Geno. We can't have this like a circus. I mean, I made the case for Todd Bowles last week, making this place look good for once and not being called a circus on the front of the newspapers, and this is the definition of a circus. Hoping that a journeyman quarterback comes back for an overpriced contract. It's just terrible.
Hey, listen, right, real quick. I hope Ryan Fitzpatrick's listening right now because you've been called out by Kyle Fahey right now. So if you're listening, Fitzpatrick, he's giving you till Thursday.
Yep.
All right. Now, what about the rookie? Deron Lee has yet to sign his rookie deal. Kyle, is he the last one out of all the rookies to sign their deal?
No, Joey Bosa hasn't either, and he's going to hold out.
So it must be an Ohio State thing.
Yeah.
Why is that, Kyle? Kyle, my brother, I hope you can explain to me, because I thought at this new CBA, it's pretty cut.
I think I know why. All right, because here's why. Darren Lee was the 20th overall pick. Now, you'll notice that the first 15 or so picks in the draft, their rookie contracts are fully guaranteed over those first 4 years. Sammy Watkins, number 4 overall, his contract is fully guaranteed. But once you start to get around picks 20, you'll notice that not every last cent in their contract is fully guaranteed. So maybe Darren Lee, that he feels that the longer that he holds out, he could try to squeeze a little bit more in terms of guaranteed money from the Jets.
Oh, I thought it was pretty cut and dry after this new CBA. This is what you're making. Basically, this is the rookie pay scale. So I was not educated that the guarantee money is flexible.
Well, Ben tried to make that argument too, but then his mother yelled at us. So I wouldn't go and say that on Twitter. She can get a little mean.
Yeah, Miss Lee, she's a news journalist out in the Ohio State area, or at least she was. Now she's his manager. Yeah. And what did she call Ben? She called him a salary cap wizard, a Twitter salary cap wizard, something like that.
Salary cap lawyer or a contract lawyer. Yeah, it was something smart. Ben was not happy about that.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, so Ben has a momager.
You know,
Darren manager.
Yes. You know, it's interesting. These Ohio State players, her and Eli Apple's mother, she's another one who's very boisterous out on Twitter, and, you know, she definitely speaks her mind. And I think ESPN just hired her to do some type of show where she's giving the mother's perspective of what it is to be the mother of an NFL player. And I know that she was on the Business of Sports podcast with Andrew Brandt, so she's very active as well.
Yeah. No, I couldn't put together why they were friends at first. I totally forgot they were both at Ohio State. I was just lost for like a couple weeks. You know, did they become friends during the whole draft process? And then, you know, I was just going over film, and I'm like, wait a minute. They're on the same team.
Yeah.
Hey, Kyle, what else is on your mind, my man?
I want to go over those interior defensive lines with you guys. You're okay with that?
Okay, so we already talked about the Jets. We're not going to spend any more time with them. Without Gary and I telling us, or telling you who our number 2 is, I want you to tell us, who would be your number 2?
Well, this is obviously one of probably the best defensive line divisions in the NFL. I don't think of anybody else besides maybe the NFC West who can compare. I would definitely have the Jets at number 1. It would probably be close for me between the Bills and the Patriots at number 2, and even a team with the Dolphins and Dominican Sue at number 4. I'm probably going to have to put the Patriots at number 2 because it seems they're more built off of cheaper players who give them more production. Unlike the Bills, who got guys like Kyle Williams, I believe that's his name. What is he, like 32? I believe he's your backup now because he's coming off injury. But you also have Shaq Lawson.
Well, let's real quick, Kyle. Before we're not comparing the edge guys. So throw
interior.
Just throw.
interior.
My bad.
Yeah, throw Cameron Wake, throw Lawson, throw Chris Long, Lorenzo Molding, throw all those names out the window.
Yeah, guys that would play 3 technique, 2 technique, 1 technique, 0 technique, at least with somewhat frequency. You know, I don't think that you're going to see Shaq Lawson in that role quite often.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I know for the fact the Patriots have Jabal Sheard, who is considered a top 5 defensive tackle in the league, at least in my
eyes. Sheard's going to be, he would be an edge defender as well.
They put
Good player. Good player, but yeah, he comes off the edge.
I hope to God at 261 pounds he would not be a defensive lineman, because Richie Incognito would be licking his chops to blow that guy off the water.
So then it's Terrace Knighton and Malcolm Brown.
There you go.
For the Patriots.
There you go. Alan Branch, those names. Yep.
Okay, so that's a pretty decent pair there. Terrence Knighton, I don't think he is what he used to be. Malcolm Brown, he had a decent rookie year. I don't think he won any awards. Definitely can step it up. Alan Branch is a savvy veteran.
Yep.
The Bills, on the other hand, was I right about Kyle Williams? Please tell me he's a defensive tackle. He's not a defensive end.
You're right.
He'd be playing a DN in a 3-4. So, but still, his hands in the dirt, and he'd be a down lineman. So yes, he wouldn't be a rush linebacker.
Marcel Darius.
Marcel Darius.
He's probably a top 5 in the league when he's healthy and not in trouble. You drafted Adolphus Washington. Where are you playing him?
Hey, Kyle, give me a second. But Gary, I think here's the way I look at it. Because Williams is as old as he is, and because he's coming off the injury, I feel like Rex Ryan wouldn't play him major reps next year. And listen, Rex Ryan runs a 3-4, but one thing, he runs a very multiple scheme. There's quite a bit of times where he's going to run 4 down linemen, and that's when I think you're going to see Kyle Williams come into the game. I don't think that you would, at least not with regularity, see him on 3 down defensive lineman looks.
No question. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of Bills fans, he'll be playing more of a spotty role this year. They'll use him on passing downs, but you know what? The beautiful thing is the Bills have good depth. You mentioned.
Yep.
You mentioned Marcel Darius, but people are forgetting that we picked up, and you mentioned also Adolphus Washington. We got T.J. Barnes, but he's more of a nose tackle. Yeah, we got Legier Douzable. Jets fans might be familiar with him.
Yeah, it's basically a Jets reject roster.
Well, I don't know about reject because Legier Douzable was re-upped twice with the Jets, including last year, so under Todd Bowles.
Hey, I'll say this, too.
Rarely got any playing time.
But as soon as Douzable signed with the Bills, I said, Bills fans are going to like this guy because you're not signing him to be a major contributor. That's a guy that, listen, one of the most rotated positions in the entire NFL is defensive line, right?
Yeah,
so when you want to give your guys a breather, that's when Legier Douzable comes in. He's going to get maybe anywhere from 5 to 10 snaps a game. And when he comes in, he's going to be fresh. And he's productive when he's fresh. He's a nice role player for a very cheap amount of money. Bills fans are going to like him, and he was one of the fan favorites with the Jets. You never heard any fans saying bad things about Legier Douzable. You never heard a fan saying, hey, remember when Legier Douzable got blown up by this offensive tackle? Or remember when Legier Douzable, blew this assignment? You'd never heard that. You only heard good things about him. You would see him, make a big-time sack and do one of his sack dances every now and then. So he's a nice little role player that I think the Bills got, and I think Bills fans are going to be happy with him.
Yeah, I think the name that gets overlooked even by Bills fans is Corbin Bryant. And back to Legier Douzable, Kyle, we picked him up for a veteran minimum, so you got to like the value on that pickup. So, but Corbin Bryant played outstanding last season in the absence of Kyle Williams. I think there's a role for him. I'd imagine that him and Adolphus Washington will split time. The Bills have good, and also the guy that is a former second-round pick from the Packers is Jarrell Worthy. He's been making a lot of big splash plays in minicamp. Now, I know it's minicamp, no pads on, but, obviously he was deemed a first or second round in the 2012 draft. But, if the Bills can untap something out of that guy, he's kind of like that Sheldon Richardson type of player. He's a shorter, gap penetrator guy. I'm not comparing him to Sheldon Richardson, so please not assume that twist it. But he fits that mold as being what Rex Ryan would have in that role. Same thing with Kyle Williams. He's not a long guy like Legier Douzable or Corbin Bryant. They're more short, squatty guys. The Bills have a good depth at that position. I'm impressed.
All right, so looking over the depth charts right now, sorry, Gary, I am still going to have to put the Patriots at number 2, Bills at number 3, and then the Dolphins at number 4. Because really, I couldn't think of anybody besides Ndamukong Suh on that team. I don't even know if they drafted anybody. I I could look it up real quick, or if you guys knew it off the top of your head. Last
year they drafted Jordan Phillips in the second round, which was a shocker to many people.
Okay.
With certain other guys on the board, supposedly they also had interest in Amir Abdullah, but they went with Jordan Phillips, who the knock on him was, he was very freakishly athletic, or because he could do backflips and things like that. But if you look at his combine measurables, not too impressive, but he was known for taking a lot of plays off at Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
So
I tell you what, when that guy gets going, he's pretty much unstoppable. But he's pretty much a watered down Albert Hainsworth. To get him going is a whole other story. So Dolphins fans are going to be, when he comes on, but when he doesn't, which is often, he gets blown out of the water. But, they got Mitchell, the veteran. They got Sue. But besides, Sue's the really only standout player on that roster. Make no bones about as far as the down lineman goes.
Yeah, and for that reason, Mr. Fahey, Gary and I would bump the Miami Dolphins up above the New England Patriots, because you had mentioned Pot Roast, but Pot Roast really wasn't all that great last year. And he's on the down end of his career. Malcolm Brown, 32nd overall pick, had a pretty decent rookie year, but he's still nowhere close to Ndamukong Suh yet. So for that reason, because Suh is so dominant, and yes, I get it. He was a disappointment. If you want to say he didn't live up to his contract type, that's because he got quarterback money. The dude got quarterback money. He got $60 million upon signing, to which there was another $20 million that was reworked this past year. So basically the guy got $80 million guaranteed. Unprecedented contract for a defensive player, especially at the time.
Kyle, you got to also give Sue a lot of credit. He was also coaching the defense last year.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
yeah,
so,
there was terrible coaching.
There was a lot riding on Sue's shoulders.
Oh, you're absolutely right about that, Gary.
It was a fiery address from Ndamukong Suh to his defensive teammates on Monday. He told them, I run this defense. I'm going to be here for the next 5 years. There's no guarantee any of you will be as well. Only a handful of guys are good enough to play with me right now. He also said that the schemes were not good enough, the techniques were not good enough, and everyone needed to be better. He said, follow me. Now, my understanding, the room was split. Some saw this as the kind of address a leader would give. Others saw this as just something they did.
You got to give Sue credit where credit's due, and you have to overlook his shortcomings. It is hard. I mean, could you imagine, Gary, playing and also coaching at the same time? I mean, Gary, we played flag football with each other the past couple of years, and there was oftentimes we had to call out plays and stuff, and sometimes when you got to think about what you're scheming and stuff, you can't play as good as you possibly can. So we have to give Sue a little bit of a pass right there.
Were either of you quarterbacks?
No. We were
I'm looking for one.
We were like the Bash Brothers on the defensive line. We got other teams scared to want to block us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we would run stunts on some of these linemen, and they wouldn't know what hit them. So anyway, but so basically, Gary and I, who did we have at number 2, Gary, and why?
We had the Buffalo Bills, and Kyle, it really starts with, you talked about Kyle Williams, and Kyle, we've already mentioned about Kyle Williams, but he is a Pro Bowl player, and he's a year removed from a Pro Bowl, and he dealt with an injury last year, and we mentioned Marcel Darius, who's also a year removed from a Pro Bowl as well. So you got 2 guys that are former Pro Bowlers on that D-line. We mentioned the great depth that we have with Corbin Bryant and Legier Douzable, and the third-round pick of Adolphus Washington. So we deemed the Bills. Now, keep in mind, we also said it was close between number 2 and number 4. We really, there's not a whole lot that separate them. We just felt like the Bills definitely separated. Especially, Kyle, last year we had the Bills as the best D-line last year going into the season.
Really?
The Bills set a record the year before with how many sacks, Kyle?
It was like 54 or something like that.
So you would be a fool not to put them, Kyle Fay. You would really put the Jets last.
I have that too. I was probably biased.
Going into last year?
Well, all three of our players, Damon Harrison didn't make it, and Muhammad Wilkerson didn't make it till this year, but they were all Pro Bowl, all Pro caliber players. Obviously, Sheldon had his thing off the field this year, so a lot of people don't really think of him that way anymore. But you take Sheldon Richardson, Damon Harrison.
No doubt the Jets had a good D-line, but no expert, and Kyle, I don't even think you had the Jets ahead of the Bills last offseason.
No, I mean,
and
Gary, when we were talking about this discussion last year, Bucky Brooks wrote a really popular article called "The Top 10 Most Scariest Defensive Units in the Entire League." And the Jets, I think the Jets ranked in that top 10 in terms of secondary and in terms of defensive line as well. But the Bills were really high on that list. And if you think about it, it's so interesting how quickly things can change in the NFL. Everyone's writing Kyle Williams off. No one's really talking about him this year, rightfully so. He was out the majority of the season with the knee injury. He is as old as he is. But he was a damn good player. And let's not forget, this guy made guys like Oday Abushi and Brian Winters just look silly. And he would get to the quarterbacks, whether it was Michael Vick or Geno Smith. Okay, but, he was...
Just putting that out there.
Fair enough. But the guy was continually abusing people week in, week out. And he had 5.5 sacks in the 2014 season, but the 2013 season he had 10 sacks. Now, for an interior defensive tackle, those are great numbers. So the guy has constantly been a disrupting force out there. So
yeah, and he's a freak athlete too, Kyle. The guy's 6'1", 306 pounds. He could dunk a basketball. I don't see much D lineman at 6'1" dunking a basketball. So there's a lot of athleticism to that short, squatty frame of his.
Hey, Gary, not only that, but if you Google Kyle Williams, and the first thing that'll pop up is a Wikipedia entry of him, and it says his height 6'1", his spouse, his weight 302 pounds, 40-yard dash time. Gary, care to say what it is?
I don't know. I really don't.
It says 4.4. No, 4.4.
Oh, they had to have him confused with the wide receiver Kyle Williams.
No,
yeah.
but
that's what popped up when I googled it. I just googled it. It was Kyle Williams, the picture of him fumbling that punt in the NFC Championship game.
Well, I don't know if you put Kyle Williams Jets, but if you just type Kyle Williams straight up, the Bills player will come up. Football defensive tackle, says he's for the Buffalo Bills, 33 years old, Ruston, Louisiana, all the Kyle Williams stuff. But then he's got a 4.4 40-yard dash. And maybe they did confuse that. And again, Wikipedia, you can edit the pages sometimes. I mean, generally, unless they lock it, anyone from the public can edit it. So I don't know if it was someone doing some tomfoolery with that. But yeah.
No, I'm literally going to text you the picture of it because that's what pops up. I didn't type in Jets or anything. That's funny.
Well, maybe you see, Google is smart though because Google knows your search preferences, and you're probably always typing in Jets stuff, so it's automatically assuming that you're looking for a Jets player.
Very true. Didn't think of that.
Anyway, anything else on your mind, Mr. Fahey, before we let you go?
I want to ask Gary something.
Uh-oh.
Well, it applies to you too, Kyle. Realistically, do you think Geno gives the Jets a better chance at winning if he matures, like they say he has, and understands the game better?
I think it was intended for you first, Gary, so I'll let you answer it first.
Yeah.
Do I think he gives them a better chance to win? No. And I truly, and not because Kyle and I went to extent on this many times. We don't think that arm-wise and talent-wise, as far as the skill at the quarterback position, there's probably not much of a difference between Fitzpatrick and Geno Smith. In fact, talent-wise, I think maybe Geno has the more lively arm. I truly believe Geno is a head case just by the play I've seen on the field. And a lot of people deemed him as, first of all, remember that year was probably the worst year as far as quarterbacks go, including EJ Manuel. Well, that's debatable.
He was the best one.
Once again, that was debatable, and he wasn't obviously drafted as the best quarterback. So,
nope.
If that answers your question.
Did you guys waste the number 4 pick with him or something?
No, it was number 16. But either way,
oh, okay.
Either way, there's not much of a difference between E.J. Manuel and Geno Smith. In fact, if you really want to talk about it, E.J. Manuel probably has a stronger, more lively arm than Geno. And if you look at E.J.'s stats, they're definitely better than Geno Smith. So if you really want to debate that, there's really no debate that favors Geno Smith. Second of all, when Geno played at West Virginia, he really benefited from a very talented wide receiver core. I remember Geno would just dump the ball off to Tavon Austin, and he would scatter around the field and take it for a 50-yard touchdown. Same thing with Stedman Bailey.
Yep.
So, he kind of is not a great example of what a quarterback would look like coming out of college. I like to see the quarterbacks like Carson Wentz who have zero talent around him and are highly touted. Same thing with Jared Goff, But either way, back to the point. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick knows the offense in and out. I mean, he's been in with it since his days in Buffalo. So you can't just teach that, even with a season and a half underneath your belt. So with that being said, I think that also that Fitzpatrick has time on the job. He's worked with Marshall and Decker. He knows their timing. Geno will get that too, but Fitzpatrick understands it a little bit better than Geno does. And like I said, do I think there's a difference as far as arm talent goes? No. In fact, it probably favors in Geno Smith's favor. But back to Geno being the most talented quarterback in the 2013 draft, that's just ludicrous. And Geno being actually a good quarterback, that's even more ludicrous. So I think... I
could definitely make the case for Geno having better potential and better talent than E.J. Manuel. You look at E.J. Manuel, this is a guy who has been benched for Matt Castle. Now, granted, Geno Smith has been benched numerous times as well. But
Kyle Orton. It was Kyle Orton.
Kyle Orton too.
It was Kyle Orton, not Matt Castle.
It was Kyle Orton. But anyway, I mean, let's keep in mind, Geno Smith didn't have the starting job when Sanchez was on the roster.
Yep.
Geno
he
Smith
never got really time to develop. Neither did E.J. Manuel, though.
But in today's league, it's almost like when you draft someone to be the man, and when you play him in that quarterback position, you're giving him the confidence that he could lead you to victory. And Geno, they obviously instilled that confidence. First of all, let's keep no bones about it. Inzick and Rex Ryan were pretty open that year that Geno was coming in as a starter. They were looking for a veteran to come in there and give them some play and give Geno competition. Inzick and Woody Johnson did not spend the money that one season to get anyone. It was a complete fail, in my opinion, by a GM.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I know Jets fans are glad that Inzick's gone, but really, Geno, he was never meant to be a starter. I don't think he's a starting caliber quarterback. You could go up and down any roster. Would you start him over Jameis Winston? No. Would you start him over Marcus Mariota? No. Would you start him over Tyrod Taylor? No. You could go up 32 teams. You could go down the roster, and you tell me what quarterback you would pick Geno Smith over. Maybe Mark Sanchez over in Denver.
I was about to say Mark Sanchez. RG3, Cleveland. I think Jets fans were actually excited though when RG3 was coming in for a visit because there's actually better potential for RG3 to give them a better winning percentage than Geno Smith. I mean, Kyle, I know that you were actually happy that RG3 might have been a Jet. I saw potential.
I don't remember being happy. I don't know if you're talking about me or Kyle Fahey.
No,
I was kind of like whatever. I mean, if he signs, he signs. It's not a killer deal. And listen, I'm on the record for a long time. For the longest of times, I don't care for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't. You never heard me once on this show say Fitz magic because I never bought into that garbage. You know, he was a player that was very limited. He could do certain things decently well, but he had a very competent offensive coordinator, and he had nice weapons around him. Even with that, it's not like this offense was phenomenal. It certainly wasn't. If you look at the Jets, and Edward Gorelick was pointing this out on Twitter, the Jets were 1-5 in games where the opposing team scored 22 points or above. That's not a lot of points. 22 points is that's below average in the NFL. I think an average team scores maybe around 23, 24 points a game. So the Jets, when they let their opponents score 22 or above, were 1-5. The only games they were winning was when the defense was lights out. But you also have to understand this. The Jets had a bad strength of schedule. So the defense could thrive against other bad offenses. So it's not like Ryan Fitzpatrick was lighting the world on fire and having a very proficient offense. He wasn't. So I've never been a really staunch Ryan Fitzpatrick supporter. So, yeah, if we can get a young guy like RG3 and you put him against with a competent offensive coordinator like Chan Gailey, he could be better than Fitzpatrick, and you're going to pay him less. So was I accepting to that idea? Yeah, I guess sure I was. But, I mean, that doesn't mean that I was.
But real quick, I know you voiced how you felt about Fitzpatrick. It's quite clear. I mean, and I agree with you, Kyle. But back to Kyle Fahey. Like I said, Coleman up and down all 32 teams, and tell me what Geno Smith would start over. And even the guys that you said maybe RG3. Well, listen, you're saying, but are you complete confident that Geno Smith is way better than RG3 or Mark Sanchez?
Yes,
Kyle,
based on what I've seen of RG3, inconsistency on the field and off the field when he's getting injured.
Oh my Lord! You just described Geno Smith right there.
No, Geno Smith really got injured. I mean, he had that one play in Oakland, but
you just described the inconsistency, and that's the name of the game. When you're a quarterback,
you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
Off the field, RG3 is constantly getting hurt, unreliable.
Okay, let's move beyond that, Kyle Fahey, real quick.
Uh-huh.
You just said inconsistency on the field.
Yep.
You were telling me that Geno Smith
has it too.
Okay, the name of the game in being a quarterback is really protecting the ball. And that's why I think a couple months ago, Kyle, we went to great lengths to our good buddy Biff out in Ireland. He sent us a message on Twitter saying he believes that Geno Smith is better than Ryan Tannehill. And we argued the fact that show me a season where Geno Smith was more consistent than Tannehill. And I showed him the 2014 season of Ryan Tannehill, where he threw, I think, 27 touchdowns and Kyle 12 interceptions or something like that. But either way, Geno Smith has never had a season where he threw more touchdowns than interceptions.
Yeah, and honestly, if you look at Tannehill's numbers a little bit more closely, you know, one of the things that I've been talking about a lot more recently is the interceptable project, where you focus on not how many interceptions the quarterback actually threw, and that pops up in the box score, but how much would he throw if all things are equal, you know, considering whether or not it was the receiver's fault for dropping the ball or whether or not the defensive back could have intercepted it but he just dropped it. If you look at that, Ryan Tannehill was one of the least interceptable quarterbacks all last season. He only threw like maybe about 4 interceptable passes and actually had 12 on the season. So he actually had a lot of passes just not go in his favor. If you think back to Eli Manning a couple of years ago, he had 25 interceptions. But a lot of them were tipped balls, his receivers, not making plays. And he certainly a couple of years ago, before Odell, was there, when Victor Cruz was hurt, had, not a great receiving corps. So if you look at those statistics, Ryan Tannehill is actually, he's better than what his win-loss record says. And let's be honest, he had really incompetent coaches out there. But I hear what Gary's saying. And really, honestly, Mr. Fahey, we really can't think of many quarterbacks that we would take Geno Smith over. We would take him over Mark Sanchez, maybe RG3. I'm sure maybe if I think of a couple other guys, that's possible. Maybe Brock Osweiler, but maybe you've seen enough. No, probably not, exactly, because you've seen enough potential from Osweiler.
But even so, both Kyles, could you say that without hesitation? Even guys, even as bad as a name as Blaine Gabbert, and as bad as name Mark Sanchez.
I'd say that without hesitation.
Well, you're saying that because you're biased and you root for your team. But if Geno Smith was on the San Francisco 49ers and Blaine Gabbert was on the New York Jets, I think you'd have a difference in opinion, because honestly,
for the career
guy,
or the past couple years?
I would take Geno over Blaine Gabbert. I saw nothing from Blaine Gabbert to impress me.
But have you seen? But even still, have you seen anything from Geno that really says, "Wow, he's a starting quarterback in the NFL"?
I mean, I've seen some things out of Geno. I really haven't seen that with Gabbert. Gabbert was always this guy that, you tell me a quarterback that gets more scared of the rush than him, and I don't think he's got a great arm anyway. I know he was a top 10 pick, but I don't see it from Gabbert.
I don't think that Geno's heads above Blaine Gabbert. I don't. So
you could maybe make that argument. And Gabbert, he was considered to be a smart guy coming out. He got like a 42 on his Wonderlic, but as I said in my Hackenberg episode, I think the Wonderlic test is heavily overrated. And Peyton Manning only scored a 28. Take that for what it's worth. But anyway, Kyle, we're gonna let you go. Kyle, thanks so much for calling. Kyle's show is Thursday.
One more thing before I go.
You've been telling me hold on too much. No, I got to put my foot down as the host of this show. I'll speak to you before Thursday so we can figure out what we're talking about Thursday. You need something? Tell me on Twitter, all right?
Gary, I'll have to message you because you said a second-round pick is going to be the man, but I think that's totally wrong. So we'll just have to talk about that later.
All right, Kyle. All right, Kyle. Take care.
All right. Thank you guys for having me on.
I'm curious to know what he's talking about. Second-round pick's going to be the man.
Well, you'll talk about it on Twitter. But anyway, that's Kyle Fahey. You can follow him at The Jet Take. His show is Thursday evenings, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of these three interior defensive line groups within the division. We had the Buffalo Bills at number 2, as you said.
Yeah, and then, Kyle, we put real quick, we'll just stay on the Bills real quick, like you said, last year they went in as one of the scariest positions last year. Obviously that's changed, and like you said, I think a lot could happen in a year's time, and it definitely has changed. Now, Kyle, at number 3, we put the Miami Dolphins in there. Really, we mentioned the name Sue, and I think Sue, even though last year he wasn't the most dominant D-line, I already gave praise to Muhammad Wilkerson. I think he's a better, more talented player than maybe Mo Wilkerson. I know I'm going to catch flack from the Jets fans, but no one's disputing. I mean, this guy coming out of college was just a world beater, and when he dominates, he dominates. And really, the thing that Muhammad Wilkerson has a benefit that he plays next to a Sheldon Richardson and a Leonard Williams. Really, in Miami, there's really no Sheldon Richardson, Leonard Williams, Snacks Harrison. Well, Sue is basically getting double, triple team. I mean, really, even last year when Cameron Wake was out a couple of games, Olivier Vernon and Sue were the only guys that really stood out, and Vernon really did not light the world on fire last year, Kyle. He only had 6.5 sacks. So Sue was the man. Sue demands so much attention. He doesn't have a lot of good pieces, at least last season. This year, you hope a healthy Cameron Wake, and you hope that Mario Williams will return to his old form and the development of Jordan Phillips. But really, Sue is the man. He's the head and cut above the rest, and really, when he wants to be, he is as dominant as anyone else on that field.
Yeah, and we bring up Pro Football Focus pretty often, and we like to cite it sometimes when it favors us and sometimes when it doesn't. And one of the criticisms I had, and for the life of me, I cannot figure out why this guy had such a high rating last year. But Olivier Vernon was very high in terms of their ratings, and you look at that and you think to yourself, is this the reason why he got paid so much? Where teams, because, let's be honest, Pro Football Focus, there's about half the teams in the league do use their analytics to assess players, at least in some capacity. And he got a big-time contract. He's basically the Muhammad Wilkerson deal, a little bit less guaranteed money, and, about $1 million less overall. And I think that the cash flows, maybe he's getting a little bit more over 3 years, but a little bit less in the first 2 years. It's basically the same exact contract as Muhammad Wilkerson, and we know that these two players aren't even close. But let's be honest. One of the reasons why Olivier Vernon at least somewhat succeeded, you have to believe, is because of Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh is eating up 2 blocks, so many times, and people are accounting for him, which gives Olivier Vernon those one-on-one shots on the outside. To me, I still can't figure out why he's at such a high rating, because he's not good against the run, and he's not a great pass rusher. I get it. I do know why he ranked high. They said that he had more hurries than anyone else over the last 8 weeks of the season. But if you kind of dive into it, I think PFF is very liberal in terms of how they give out those hurries. Like, it might not be like an actual hurry, but if you're just in the vicinity of the quarterback around the time that he releases the ball, they would consider that a hurry. So he might be getting to the quarterback just after he's releasing the ball, but not really causing an actual hurry. But anyway, let's be honest, Ndamukong Suh created for Olivier Vernon, not the other way around. And yes, it's harder to play defensive line when you're getting double-teamed by others and getting occupied by others. And Suh, especially in the interior, he did not have a good running mate like a Wilkerson or Richardson or Leonard Williams. He just didn't have that. And even a guy such as guys on the outside who you might want to account for in a double-team, Cameron Wake. Well, Cameron Wake went down with an injury about mid-season. So that's another thing. And he started off the season not healthy. So just because of Ndamukong Suh alone, we'd have to put them, like you could say the other interior defensive lineman is pot roast a better second interior defensive lineman than, anyone else on the Dolphins, yes, but Ndamukong Suh is that much better than the number 1, who is, I would say, Malcolm Brown with the Patriots. And for that reason alone, we have to put them at number 3.
Right. Yeah, and like you said, Kyle, I think that Suh, listen, you put Suh next to Sheldon Richardson and Leonard Williams, I probably, no doubt, I'd be comfortable saying he'd probably have a better season than Mo Wilkerson, just because he's more talented. Not saying that Mo Wilkerson wouldn't have a good season if he was switched to Miami, but really, I mean, Suh is just one of the scariest guys to go up against. I mean, I remember watching those Bills games closely, and it looked like Suh was the only guy that was playing on that D-line. Really, I mean, there was zero pressure coming from the outside. There was zero push with the exception of Suh. He just stood out to me as a man amongst boys. And I think that's another thing that really goes unnoticed, that he is an excellent run defender, and he really can move an offensive lineman back. There's a lot of D linemen that use the offensive body weight against him, and uses their momentum well. I rarely see Mo Wilkerson just blow an offensive lineman into the backfield. I see him do excellent rip moves and swim moves, but rarely do I ever see Mo Wilkerson use a bull rush to get back there. Suh has that scary power to just dominate a guy, and you can't teach that, unfortunately. So, Suh is, like I said, if you switched him and Mo Wilkerson, I'd be comfortable in saying that he might have a better season than Mo Wilkerson did if you switched his running mates.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that Muhammad Wilkerson can do more things than Suh. As we said before, you can slide him all up and down the line. You can't really do that with Suh. But if you want to talk about sheer domination, Suh can take over games more so than Muhammad Wilkerson can. And I remember my very first interaction with Ndamukong Suh. Didn't even know who he was. And I haven't watched much college football over recent years, Gary, but I remember back, what was it, year maybe 2007 going into 2008, and I was watching the Big 12 championship. It was my Texas Longhorns versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And when you turn on, like an ABC or a NBC or whatever, they'll give you a little blurb about what program you're watching. Like, Tom Brady goes to MetLife Stadium to take on the New York Jets and Rex Ryan. Like, you see like a little blurb about that, some, 2 big names. And one of the little blurbs was the Texas Longhorns go against Ndamukong Suh and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I'm thinking, like, who the heck is Ndamukong Suh, and why is his name so important that they're going to mention him in this little blurb? He dominated that game like I've never seen a defensive lineman ever dominate before. I can't remember the statistics and stuff, but he must have had like 4.5 sacks. He ate Colt McCoy alive that day. And it was scary, the way that he was hitting him and driving him to the ground. And Sue has that ability to take over games. And while Muhammad Wilkerson might be more consistent, and we talked about Jordan Phillips, how he can be very absent at times, you might see a little bit of that from Sue from time to time. But when he's on, and he can dominate better than Wilkerson can for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, you mentioned he doesn't play up and down the line. Well, he's never asked to, but I have no doubt. I remember last year, Kyle, we were doing a preseason rankings of if we were creating a 3-4. I said, Kyle, how can you not include Sue in these as being on the D line? He is probably the best D lineman in the AFC East. Didn't mean he had the best year last year, but as far as talent goes and his surrounding cast, I mean, he was really handicapped last year. Now, they gave him some good pieces this year to work with. They brought in Mario Williams. Hopefully they get Deion Jordan back. They made a few changes at the linebacker spot, and they got some corners on that roster finally that look like they're going to be able to play. So, we'll see if the Miami Dolphins make improvements. Still, it does not take the fact that Sue is still one of the most dominant D linemen in the league.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And now that you mention the fact that you can kick him out and play some 5 technique, I do remember one specific instance when, in London, they kicked him out to play 5 technique over D'Brickashaw Ferguson, the left tackle for the Jets. And I don't know if you would consider it Miami's NASCAR package or whatever. Probably not. But he did straight up beat D'Brickashaw Ferguson and got to the quarterback in a heartbeat on that particular play. So it's not to say that he can't play there. It's just if he were to do it on a consistent basis, how effective would he be? But
I agree. Well, he's never asked to do it. But Kyle, he's one of those players, though. He just the way he plays the game, how nasty he is, and just his mindset is he wants to dominate the guy who's in front of him. And he actually will go every means necessary, whether it's kicking the guy when he's on the ground or gouging his eyes. That's the way Sue plays the game. And it's very dirty, it's very nasty, but, I have no doubt that because of his sheer will and how talented he is, he'd be a good player no matter what position you put him in, really, on the defensive line.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that the dude wants to win, and he'll win any means necessary, even if he has to do a little Eddie Guerrero cheat to win. You remember that back in the day? Eddie Guerrero had those cheat to win T-shirts.
Oh yeah, there was. He lies, he cheats, and he steals. Remember that?
He come out on his lowrider.
Yeah, it was. Rest in peace, Eddie Guerrero.
Was he a steroid abuser, and did that lead to his demise? I don't remember the cause of his death.
I was talking to God. Rob that owns Gold's Gym in Bridgewater. He comes in the car wash. We were talking about pro wrestlers from the 90s and the 80s today when he came in the car wash, and I was watching a lot of these old interviews, these pro wrestlers, and their lifestyle is they were 6 days on the road. They would go do an event. They'd be all banged up, so they'd pop a bunch of painkillers. Of course, they have to maintain their physique, so they would shoot up a bunch of steroids. And they would party all night, so they would take, whether it's a Xanax, and they would be boozed up with alcohol, just a lifestyle. They would just abuse their bodies with everything imaginable, from steroids to painkillers to aids to keep you up at night to alcohol. And that's why a lot of them have passed away on their 40s, and 50s, because the staying up all night, the traveling, it kills your body. And that's why Eddie Guerrero, in my opinion, he probably did every one of those things that I just mentioned, just like a lot of the other wrestlers have.
Yeah. I remember about 6 years ago, I asked you, because, you're a big guy, you got like a personality. You could easily, I think, play a heel or a face, because wrestling's all about acting, and I think that you could do that. So I asked, hey, would you ever become a pro wrestler? And I think that you thought about it for a second. Yeah, maybe, but it's not like, I basically asked you, if the WWE called you up and said, hey, listen, we're going to give you X amount of contract, would you do it? And it's not like you openly said, yeah, of course I'll do it. You seriously had to think about it. And I think that, when you think about all the glory and the fame, if you go through some of these Twitter bios of some of these wrestlers, a lot of them have millions of followers. Like, a lot of these guys are more popular than many football players, despite the fact that football is much more popular than wrestling. But, these guys individually get a lot of fame because they get their face out there. But, you think of it as all glory and stuff, but what are you doing in all those hours that you're not performing? And, it definitely takes a toll on you, as you said. So, anyway, it's just interesting to think about. But in the next coming shows, we're going to be talking about training camp, because training camps will be open by then, and we're going to have a lot less time for these types of discussions, for the Eddie Guerrero type of talk and stuff. Of course, that stuff will still exist because that is our show, and we love that, but we're going to have to cram a lot more information. These past couple weeks, we're trying to... Go ahead, Gar.
Who's New York Jets today? Who is that? New York J today.
That's Kyle Fahey.
Oh, that's his handle?
That's his personal Twitter handle.
I have no idea what he's saying on this, but okay.
I think he's saying that you basically said that Geno was viewed as being the man once he was drafted for the Jets. And I think that he's saying, I don't think most Jets fans believe that. He certainly didn't believe that.
When did I say? I didn't say that. I said...
I honestly don't remember you saying that either.
Well, Kyle Fahey, I think he's limited to his hearing right now, but that's okay. We'll let him have a pass on that.
We got amazing hearing aids nowadays, though, so it's good
all
that he
these
lives
kids
in this
playing all these. I hope Kyle Fahey's not one of those Pokemon kids that are playing that stupid game, Kyle.
I have to ask him. He doesn't strike me as a Pokemon kid, but I'll have to ask him.
I don't think so. Yeah.
He's really into politics from what I see and what I hear. But anyway, so the next couple shows, we're going to have to keep it a little bit more straightforward and to the point, because we're going to be delving into those training camp battles, who's shining and who's not. I'm going to try to get to as many Jets training camp practices as possible. Maybe, just maybe, Gary, you and I could take a trip up to Buffalo for some of those night practices that, the Bills fans rave about, that are always so fun to go to. I don't know if we can work that out. Maybe we can. Try to take some Instagram videos that I'll also post to Twitter of specific, plays at practice, specific battles, wide receivers going against corners. It would be fun to, Sammy Watkins probably isn't going to practice all that much, but it would be nice to see him against, like, Gilmore or Darby. That would be cool. Marshall versus Revis, things like that. I'm going to try to do some more of that. So the show will be a little more straightforward in the next couple weeks. As always, the number to call in is 712-451-0011. The PIN number is 321848. Can't call into the show, but you still have an extensive question. You're not on Twitter, or you're not good at doing something in 140 characters. Email the show, afceastbros@gmail.com. Follow Gary on Twitter, AFC_EastBro Gary. I'm at AFC Eastbros. And someone went to me on Twitter and said, hey, listen, how come only your Twitter handle is in the bio? No, Gary's is also in the bio. You just got to look carefully. Every show, I make sure to put both our Twitter handles there, so look carefully. Hope to have some more non-live shows coming out in the next 2 weeks or so. And also, from now on, I'm going to keep my word with this one. I'll also be uploading the shows to YouTube as well. So let's say you got a family member that doesn't really have a mobile device, doesn't really listen to podcasts, has no idea what a podcast is, but knows what YouTube is. You can refer them over to our YouTube page to catch the shows there. For example, our dad would be a prime example of this. He doesn't really know what a podcast is, but he knows about YouTube, and he can click through YouTube videos. So I'm going to upload our actual shows there, and you'll also notice that the Hackenberg film session is up there. Got pretty good reviews from that. You and I, Gary, as the season progresses, and especially around draft time, we're not making any promises as to how often we'll do those things, but we will try to do those a little bit more often, where Gary and I will break down a specific prospect and put the film breakdown up online. Am I missing anything, Gary?
No. What do we have left, Kyle? We still got this. We did the safeties, I believe. We still got the edge guys.
We're going to do the edge guys next.
And we got, special teams maybe we're going to do? I don't even know.
And if we want to do tight ends.
Oh, yeah, we haven't done tight ends yet. It's funny how we we skipped over them.
Yeah, but
we didn't mention.
Yeah, we didn't.
We probably, you know what we could probably do? We could probably cram the edge and the tight ends all in one episode. You know, if we're going to do it really fast.
I think we could do that because we're going to have lots of stuff to talk about with the training camp stuff, and then preseason's going to roll around. Who shined in the preseason games, all that good stuff, and what are we going to see from Jimmy Garoppolo? Because he's going to be the Patriots starter for the first 4 weeks, so that will be interesting.
Well, you know what? Real quick before we get out of here, it's a good thing that he is getting to start the training camp off as being the man, because you got to imagine if this news came later, the Patriots would be behind the 8 ball. So it's actually good for the Patriots nation that they know that Jimmy will be the first 4 games as the quarterback.
And honestly, I think that Bill Belichick, he's boys with Tom Brady after all, right? Those two are tied to the hip from day one. I think Bill had to sit down with Brady and says, listen, man, I'm just as mad as you are at the league. The league screwed the both of us over. But listen, if you try to fight this thing to the end, we might not get a decision right now, and it might drag on to the season, and maybe you could be suspended come playoff time or come December when the games are a little bit more important.
Right.
Just take the suspension, take the hit on the chin now, and we'll get the first 4 games out of the way, and then we'll have you for when real football comes around. You know, that old Bill Parcells cliche, real football doesn't start till after Thanksgiving. You best believe that Belichick wanted Brady for those games more so than the first 4 games.
And real quick on a final note, Kyle, this might be a real positive for the Patriots. I know how could it be a positive with Tom Brady missing for 4 games, but you think about it. Years have gone by where the Patriots, they've started out slow, and we've always had that argument by every major news media that covers sports. Oh, is this year that Tom Brady's slowing down? Well, they always start off slow, and they always have a resurgence in the middle of the season where they just start lighting teams up. Well, this gives Tom Brady, who's typically a slow starter, a chance to rest his arm, put less mileage, and really he'll be fresh mid-season. It's kind of a scary thought if you think about it. If Jimmy Garoppolo could come 2-2 on those 4 games, it's going to be a very scary proposition for every other team.
Yeah, I've heard that argument thrown around as well. And I'll leave this as my last thing. If you want to say anything else, by all means.
I'm done after this.
Okay, so a lot of people are looking at the first 4 games with Garoppolo as being very winnable. The Patriots going 3-1, and I certainly can see that because I think this is one of the best Patriots defenses that we've seen in a very long time. So I can definitely see 3-1. I don't necessarily see 4-0, but I could definitely see 3-1. Now, just think about this for a second. One of the reasons why they say that is those first 4 games, 3 of them are in Foxborough, and the Patriots are almost unbeatable in Foxborough. But it's with Garoppolo. Now, let's say that you do lose those games, right? Let's say Jimmy G goes 1-3, God forbid if that happened. Now, those divisional opponents, the Bills and the Dolphins, you still have to play those teams on the road. Now, Brady, I don't think Brady, when he's played a full game, has ever lost to the Bills in Foxborough. He's lost in Buffalo a couple times. Brady has lost the last 3 in Miami. So Brady's more shaky on the road, whereas, you know, he's almost unbeatable at home. So let's say you drop those first 4 games when you're, like, a lot of Patriots fans are looking at the first 4 games, you know, 3 of them being at home, that's a good thing. But maybe if they lose those games, that's a bad thing because now you have Brady on the road where he's a little bit more shaky. So it's just food for thought right there. It might not be a good thing for the Pats.
Yeah. And I got to say, one thing is, you know, I can't recall, it may have happened last year, but off the top of my head, I really can't recall a team ever having 3 home games in a row. That, I'm trying to think about if another team has. The league
happens pretty frequently.
Well, I can't remember. I mean, I know last year the Bills played 3 out of the 4 games in the end of the season at home. I don't know if it was 3 in a row, but either way, I just think that the league did the Patriots a little bit of a favor in that aspect as well. You know, yeah, we know we're going to suspend your boy, but here's 3 home games. Hopefully that softens the blow in a row.
I think that I'd have to agree with you there. I mean, the league knows how to make the most out of it, and If they can make the Patriots, give them a little bit more of a level playing field, then certainly they would do that. But anyway, let's end this show. Kyle and Gary, the AFC East Bros, interact with us any way you can, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. I forgot to mention before that AFC East Bros now has an Instagram account, at AFC East Bros, the same as my Twitter handle. And on that Instagram account, I'm primarily going to be using it for uploading all 22 clips of the different games that the AFC East teams play in. I'm going to try to do clips for every single game for this upcoming season. I'm not going to make a 100% guarantee that I can get to all of them, but that is going to be my intent. I'm starting to upload clips now. I started doing some Jacoby Brissett. I'll do a couple more of him. I'm going to do some Cardale Jones. I will be doing some Brandon Doughty as well as some of the other rookies. And then I'll probably start to do some clips from some of the AFC East matchups from the 2015 season. But again, for the 2016 season, you best believe that I'm going to spend a lot of time doing that. So that will be my intent. Now, these will also get posted to Twitter. They will get posted as a photo to Twitter, but you will see a link is attached. If you click that link, it will redirect you to Instagram, to which you can then watch the video. Again, that is at AFC East Bros on Instagram. I'm not going to be using the account for doing any of that type of edits or anything like that with photos. I'm not that creative. But I also plan on going to training camp, and I'm going to try to record as many videos as I can from there as well. That is Jets training camp. And maybe I'll go to a Bills training camp practice. No guarantees with that, though. Anyway, thanks for your continued support and your listens. We really appreciate it.